Okay. I was like all in the music. I'm like, wait, oh, we're gonna do this. Okay, let's do this.
Let's do this, Donna.
This. All right. So as you saw from the opening banner, right? There is a lot of sales strategies out there. Doug, you remember back in the day
Oh,
where
do
you
I
learned
ever?
the curiosity driven strategy? Poor Doug. Poor Dougie Doug. I mean, no, seriously though. There are so let's talk, let's just go all the way back. So back in the day, back before you became a firebrand, fire savvy Donna Knight. And you were out there,
A Donna night.
you were out there Beyonce's internet street selling, right? What was
Yep.
it? What tell me what you were doing. What was going on in your world?
Oh, like, so how far back do you want me to go?
Go. Tell me about
Um,
it. Because you're an expert, like you're a mindset coach, you're a client concierge expert. Like this is your jam, right? And you get clients, you were getting clients back then, right?
yeah, okay. So here's the deal though, Donna. I was getting clients, but it was more like through referrals and everything.
Okay.
So I didn't really have to hunt as much,
Mm-hmm.
and have like real sales conversations, because usually those opportunities were kind of set up by somebody else and everything.
So you had
Or
to count on your referrals to sell for you.
totally, yeah. If I'm being
Did,
honest.
did you ever have a referral like sell for you something that you're like, I don't even do that. Like
Oh, all the time. Yeah, yeah, all the time. And then you're thinking like, well, I guess I could do that, but it's not even in my
right. It's not even like it's not
in
even
my
your jam. Like,
expertise
yeah.
wheelhouse or anything. But yeah, sure, I can do that.
Yeah, like yeah, I could deliver laundry, but I guess if you need me to
Yeah.
make the bed, I guess I can make the bed and walk the dog. I don't know. I don't know. It's not normally what we offer,
Right. Exactly.
but
But
that's
we'll
how
make an exception for you.
right. We'll make an example, but that's how people end up with like a hodgepodge of offers,
Totally.
especially when they're experts, right? They just start throwing all kind of crap in there. But let's talk about like what was your sales strategy? Like when you had to sell, like when you had to like.
Well, if I'm being honest, I didn't really have one other than just push, 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 and try to
Mm,
convince,
mm,
somebody to make a decision or buy something or whatever. And just going into it, the whole mindset of it, honestly, was like, when I thought about my expertise, I felt good. But when I thought about like trying to sell somebody,
yeah.
all of a sudden I was overcome with the ickies. I had like full
You just
blown case
thought
of
it was
icky.
you thought it was gross to, like, push, convince, and, like, force something else.
Yeah, it was just the whole thing, because I'm a teacher by trade, and so it was like I'm always about helping people, and then it felt like there was something dirty about the process,
Right.
and there
But, you
shouldn't have
know
been, but
but you know what? You're not alone because a lot of, people who are experts are not sales pros, and they tend
mhm.
to believe that they're gonna hang out a sign, right? "Oh, I'm an accountant, and people are just gonna hire me." Right? And I'm like, "But why?" And they're like, "Well, I'm gonna have the lowest price." Well, that's not a differentiator, and quite honestly, if an accountant is charging me, like, $100 a year to do my taxes, then I really think you're not making any money, and you are gonna bust up my taxes. I'm gonna be in audit tomorrow, right? Um, and but that's what they do. They're like, oh, this is what I do, this is what I know, and so I'm just gonna sell this. And because they don't know how to sell, what they end up doing is dropping their price. So
Yes.
okay, so I'm gonna jump in. So there's two main strategies out there right now that people use. And I know you're like, I didn't have a strategy, but I swear you did. So the old strategy that you were using was called an ABC strategy, always be closing.
Mhm. Yep.
That's when you get on the phone. And even before you get on the phone, you can hear yourself saying, I got to get on the phone. I got to close this guy. And you
Mhm.
probably had in your mind what what you're going to sell them.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. Like I'm going to sell this coaching package, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a always be closing mindset. You go in,
Okay.
you have a predetermined item that you're going to sell it, and you're going to have to do convincing. You're going to have to handle objections, but you're going to do everything you can before they get off that call to make sure they close, because you're concerned about getting to the close. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll always be closing. It's literally an always be closing mindset. You're constantly looking for an opening to get to the close. It's very gross.
Dirty.
It feels gross. It feels
Yeah.
gross. Like I've
Yeah.
done it and it feels gross. I've actually done it like just in a reenactment, like not even for real, and it felt gross.
Yeah.
Like, people do this and they make money? Oh my God. Right? Because in my mind, the person on the other end is literally sitting there going, you are selfish and you are just trying to get to your number. This really has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Right. The other one is called a question-driven strategy. So a question-driven strategy, and listen, I've seen people with these and it's crazy. A question-driven strategy is literally they give you questions and you're supposed to try to follow the questions in order. And so they might have like different phases and they're like, so this phase, there's like 10 questions, but this phase, there's like
Yep.
20 questions. For this phase, there's like 5 questions. And what happens is when you're an expert and not a sales pro and you try to follow those questions, instead of ABQ, always be questioning, you become ABI, always be interrogating.
Mm.
Because the person on the other end feels like, oh my God, they feel like you're checking the box on them.
Yeah.
They feel like you're just, and you know what we see? Let me tell you how experts try to get around it now, which I think is so cute. They're like, so what I'm going to do is, in order to filter the number of people that come into my calendar, I'm going to have them fill out all these questions ahead of time.
Oh, yep.
I'm like, if I have money, I don't have time. And so what I'm not going to do is waste my time dropping a bunch of data on a freaking forum. You want to know? Get on the phone with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People with money are time poor. They're cash rich, but they're time poor. They're not going to waste their time filling out your stupid form. But that's a way for experts to try to get around the question-driven strategy and get directly to the sale and go straight to an ABC, always be closing strategy. So
Got it.
here's the bad thing. Neither one of those actually work very well for entrepreneurs. For people who are experts in their industry, like their agency owners, their coaches, their consultants, right? Their professional service providers. It doesn't work. Neither one of those work very well for them. And here's why. Because all of those strategies are built for salespeople.
Like full-time sales pro.
Full time, like I get up in the morning, I'm setting up my data cell, I'm going to sleep at night, and I'm thinking about sales. And between the hours of like 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., I'm selling. And I'm going to this network event this weekend because I'm going to sell. And here's the thing. The reason that doesn't really work for experts and entrepreneurs is because a lot of times the same people who are selling the product are the same people who have to fulfill it. So we can't do sales 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Think about all the other things you have to do.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes complete sense.
Right. Like you got more to do than just sell. You can't.
Yeah, we got a few different hats to wear.
Right. Yeah. Like you got your marketing, you got your accounting, you're sitting up there in Canva trying to figure shit out. Then you got to go and actually fulfill and coach and think about the future of the business and what you're doing next in regards to growing the business. You can't literally just be sitting there selling all day. So the ABC does not work because it's too pushy and icky and it's built for sales pros. And the question-driven strategy doesn't work because it takes ABQ, always be questioning, into ABI, always be interrogating. And then what happens is people just feel gross. So neither one of those strategies really work for people who are experts that are entrepreneurs that decided to hang out their shingle. Because it's not built for them.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you felt icky, that's okay.
All right. Oh, good. I thought it was just me.
No, it's okay that you felt icky. It's okay that you felt icky. Because here's the thing. People, so let's say when you sell, because you were saying, when you sell, you probably close what, like 20, 30, 40%?
Yeah, probably somewhere in there.
Yeah. Right. And so so for a lot of experts, it's not that they don't. it's not like they're like they don't feel like they feel like, yeah, I can sell because you're closing 20, 30, 40%. The challenge is how it feels.
Right.
So it
Yeah.
feels gross.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. And the interesting thing that you said there too was like when you're always focused like on that end goal of that sale, I think part of the process why it felt gross is because you're so focused on that piece that you're not really like taking the time to like, actually connect with the person or anything like that. It's just kind of a hard charge to the end. You're missing things along the way. And so you're not even really fully present, like in the
Right.
conversation.
Exactly. So let's talk about how you in Fire Savvy, this is after ABC, this is after the BS, ABS, right? This is after the BS. So after you got past the BS and you really learned how to use a curiosity driven strategy, you started closing 70, 60, 70, 80%, sometimes
Yeah.
90%.
Yeah. And what was interesting about it is I never really realized because I was doing the things you taught me and having a lot of success, but it's like, I don't even really feel like I'm doing anything that special.
You used to say all the time, like, this doesn't feel like I'm selling. And
No, it doesn't feel
I'm
like.
like,
So,
right.
so am I doing this right, Donna? Because it doesn't feel icky. It's
You
too
used to say
easy.
that all the time. You was like, this doesn't feel like I'm selling. And I'm like, I'm aware. And you're like, no, but you don't understand. Like, it doesn't. I'm like, you mean it doesn't feel icky and gross? You're like, no. I'm like, right. As it should not.
Yeah, it just felt like a conversation.
As it should not. So I'm going to tell you exactly we're going to talk about exactly the strategy that we use at Fire Savvy to close 70, 80, and quite honestly, 90%. Like Teresa Noy closed 90% of her clients into her, and she did not love sales.
No. I'm sorry. I almost had like a
I know. I would love for Teresa to come on right now and be like, and I did not,
no.
right? Like it would be a fight. She's like, I don't want to sell. I'm like, Teresa, trust me. No. And I'm like, Teresa, trust me. Teresa did not love sales. And she closed 90% using this strategy. And I'm saying you could double. Teresa was at like 10%. She closed 90%. So
Now she's a boss.
but this is built for experts. This is built
Yeah.
for entrepreneurs who aren't sales pros. So before we do that, why don't we actually tell people who we are since we've been running our mouth and we have not said our intro at all? What up, what up, what up? My name is Donna St. Louis. I am the co-founder of firesavvy.net. I am a master sales coach, and I'm also the creator of what you're about to hear about, which is the Fire Savvy Bat Signal, and how we use it to help not only us close 70, 80, 90%. So don't get on the phone with me if you ain't got your credit card, but how we also help our clients close 70, 80, 90%, because you're going to get off and be like, damn, I should have bought it. I'm like, I know you'll buy it later, but that's okay. Right. So because we don't have to push. Right. And so we're gonna talk a little bit like how we actually do that and how we actually use something as silly called the Fire Savvy Bat Signal. And we've taught it to clients like, Microsoft, Starbucks, Amazon, American Airlines, Abbott. I actually have if you go to Donna.com, you will see there is a list, and that's a short list. There is a list of clients that I've taught this to. And I have directors of sales who have had like record breaking quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter. And they still live by this and have like 30 something years of experience. And they're like, this is the best sales training ever. And that's in corporate where they know how to sell. They use this. They're like, oh my God, this makes everything we've learned better. So I'm literally, and it's so simple. That's the thing. The best thing is so simple. All right, Doug, tell them who the hell you are.
I am Doug Stanfley. I am the client.
You're standing between them and finding out what this is.
Right. Okay. I'll make this quick then. I'm Doug Stanfley. I'm the client concierge here at Fire Savvy. I'm also the mindset coach, and I have the privilege to work with our two co-founders, Donna St. Louis and Chanel Evans, and our amazing Fire Savvy family. And I love what we're doing here because we're always growing, learning, and we're having fun doing it and everything.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's do this.
So let's start with the beginning. So when you look at what's the first thing you want to know in regards to the curiosity versus question versus ABC?
Well, I guess the my first question to you is like why the curiosity and like what makes it so much different than, the other two strategies that you
Yeah.
mentioned.
So here's the thing. As people, just now I'm gonna get all primitive on your ass. Um,
Let's do it.
people are people are naturally curious, right? We are naturally curious. It is what allowed us to invent like the first wheel. You know what I mean? Because we're like,
Hmm.
"Ooh, I think we could do that." And we're seeing now even like our curiosity. Somebody sat there and was like, "I wonder if I could get this computer to figure it out." Right. And so now we're seeing this big jump into AI. And someone like me who is in tech, I'm always curious. I'm sitting over here right now with the whole thing behind me that I'm about to do. So we are naturally curious human beings, right? All I'm doing is leveraging what we have naturally. We have been curious from the moment that we've come out of the womb. And so it's leveraging what we naturally have in our psychology and leveraging that in order to solve puzzles when we're talking to our clients rather than to try to sell them.
Yeah. And the piece that has really clicked for me, especially lately as we're going through the academy and I'm seeing these light bulbs and all these aha moments with all of our fire savvy fam, is that when they latch onto this curiosity driven strategy, it's like all of a sudden they can like relax a little bit because now they're
Yeah,
not so focused on like, well, what question am I supposed to ask or whatever. They can really like be more present and show up in the
yeah,
process.
absolutely. And by the way, if you're listening right now and you have a question, you can type the question in the chat. I think I'll be able to see it. But if you type a question, we'll see if I can answer it. Yeah, we'll see how that works out. So the one thing, yeah. So what happens? So the difference between a curiosity driven strategy and a question driven strategy and an ABC strategy is this. So an ABC or an always be closing strategy is what we would call closed. It's a closed strategy, meaning you're walking in with a predefined solution with a
Mm,
predefined goal.
yeah.
I am going to sell this. It does
Yep.
not matter whether you need it. It does not matter whether you want it. I am going to do everything I need to do to sell it, which means I am going to use discounts. I'm going to use coercion. I'm going to use bullying. I'm going to use pushiness. I'm going to use all the things that makes selling cringy because it is a closed strategy. It has a defined beginning and defined end. You are judged based on how much of this you can do. An ABC strategy is quite honestly for low ticket, high pressure sales. It is not for high ticket sales
Mm.
at all. You will close fewer people or you will have more chargebacks if you use an ABC strategy on a high ticket sale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Oh,
That's
it makes sense because as you were describing it, like it's just you have one goal and boom, it's closed and that's the focus of it. That's exactly like how I felt like when I had like sat down with somebody for like the timeshare things and everything, where it's just
yeah.
like that's exactly what
Yes,
what
that's exactly
pictured.
what it is.
Where you
Yes.
hit the used car
Very
lot and this dude is going to try to sell you this car. You're not leaving
yes.
until he tries
Right.
to everything
Exactly.
possible.
Exactly. That is called a closed. What's up, Danielle? That is called a closed based strategy. It drenches your whole body in ick. Mm.
Yes. Yes, it does. I felt that.
Right. So then you have this other strategy, right? And a question driven strategy. So question driven strategy comes off as so it's a hybrid strategy. It comes off as if you care. It's still closed in nature because you are still, I'm going to get you to buy this. But in order to get you to buy this, I realize that I have to ask a bunch of questions and make it seem like I care.
Hmm.
Right. And so the difference is this. And by the way, I'm going to use car salesmen or even people trying to sell timeshares. I'm going to tell you how they do it because I've taught them how to do it. Hey, what's up, Betty? So this is how they do it. They go, so Doug, what brings you in today to look at this particular property? Right. And so they're using this very like, oh, and tell me about the kids, and tell me about the wife, and tell me about the family, and tell me about where your credit card's located on your body, right? So it's very
Yeah.
much a question-driven strategy. It's very, very much a question-driven strategy, but it comes to the form where it starts getting into interrogation. And this is why it starts getting into interrogation, because they start asking you questions that don't make sense for the offer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So then
Yeah.
they start asking you questions at the beginning that get you to the close fast. So for example, they at the beginning they'll say, "Oh, okay, so hey, what brings you in?" "Okay, that's great. That's great. So what do you do for a living?" Why are they asking you that? Because they're trying to figure out how much money you make.
Right. Yep.
Right? And what price point were you looking at? We're talking about price. We haven't even decided if I'm interested or if this is
Mm-hmm.
the right thing for me.
Right.
Right? So it's still a closed strategy, but they're leveraging questions to get you to the close. So they're asking questions at the beginning about time, effort, and money to fit you into a very specific solution without knowing if the solution is right for you.
Yeah. We just went through this.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, a
yes.
few months ago, we did one of these little things, Carrie and I, and I'm almost feeling like you were there. Everything you're saying is so spot on. That was
Yes.
exactly what that guy was doing.
Yeah, so that's more of a hybrid strategy because they are asking you the questions. That's definitely built for professional sales pros. What they're actually trying to do is at the very beginning, understand time, effort, money, because there's still going to be a forced push at the end,
Mm-hmm.
but they're gathering all that information from an interrogative perspective in order to wedge you in so you can't get out. So it's still a closed strategy. The only difference is they might, instead of having this one thing they're going to sell maybe this or this.
Gotcha.
Right? They have a
Yeah.
couple of options. They have it in this size, they have it in this size, and they have the gallon size. Right? But they're still going to sell you something. They're still going to sell you this. It's just what version of this are they going to sell you?
Yep.
So if you go to one of those where they're doing the timeshare, it's the difference between, am I going to sell you the 1 bedroom, the 2 bedroom, or the 3 bedroom? Am I selling you the silver, the gold, or the platinum?
Right.
They're still selling you that whether it's right for you or not. That's what makes it a close strategy.
Got it.
Make sense?
That's super helpful. Oh, that really cleared it up
I
for
know
me.
you're sitting here going, I can see them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because he kept going through his little thing because he was going to sell us something. I mean, he was.
Right. He just
Yeah.
he had to get those questions. He knew
Yep.
and what they're doing is they're asking you those questions to box you in
Right.
to having to make a decision, right? So you got the first one. ABC strategy, always be closing. It's a closed sales strategy. I am going to sell you this, period, the end, no matter what. And then you have the question driven strategy, ABQ, which turns into ABI, always be interrogating, which is I'm going to sell you a version of this. It's still a closed strategy, but I'm going to ask you the questions early to find out if I'm selling you this size, or the big size. But you're taking this home with you. Like, doesn't matter. You don't have a car. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can put it on. I don't know. Do you have any kind of rubber, vinyl, or plastic? You put it on it, right? It does not matter. You're taking this home, right? So our strategy, our strategy is actually ABC, but it's always be curious. It is an open strategy. There is no box. I shouldn't have gone like this because it's actually like this.
Yeah. I know exactly what you
it's
meant.
an open strategy. It is
Right.
not a this, it is a this, right? It's an open strategy. And what it does is it allows you to listen to your client following kind of like the hero's journey. So I don't have a product to sell them, so to speak. I have a solution. But what I'm doing, and usually my clients who are selling something a little more complicated or high end. So when I'm selling to Microsoft, they're selling their higher end multi-million dollar products, which means they have to have different conversations. When I'm talking to Amazon, they're selling their AWS services and stuff like that. So it's a higher end product. They have to have a different conversation. And because they're having a different conversation, they have to be curious and they really have to understand exactly what the person is going through in their world in order to buy it. So you have to be curious enough to truly understand the entire world and how they are your reluctant hero, how you are guiding them to a magical elixir, and your solution is that magical elixir. However, you don't know which magical elixir they need or if they even qualify to get one.
Gotcha.
Right? So that's the difference between the three. So for experts, the one that they're really looking for is the one we use called the bat signal, which is an ABC, or always be curious strategy. It's an
Yep.
open strategy.
I love what you just said there, because you said to guide the conversation,
Right.
but guide, paints a completely different picture than like force. There's only one way to go, kind of that closed thing that you were
Right.
talking about.
Right. You
So
might
just
get
some
in.
bumpers,
And we
just
find that all the time in what we do. We find that we're going this direction and the client, and they'll say something. I'm like, ooh, we need to turn that way because this
Mhm.
direction is not going to work for you. So I'm not going to sell you this. I don't know what I'm going to sell you on the table because I need to first be curious enough about your business to know what would be a right solution.
Right.
Right. A lot of people
Yeah.
want to call it consultative sales, but it's not consultative sales. It's very different. Right.
Hmm.
Consultative sales is it's still a bit of a closed strategy. I'm going to sell you my consulting services. That's what I'm going to do. Right. Period. The end.
Yep.
Then I'll get in afterwards and figure out what services you need after I've sold you.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I had not heard that term before, so thank
Yeah.
you. That's very helpful.
Yeah. It's like I'm consulting you to a solution during the call, and then I'll sell you my services to get to that solution later if that's different.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm gonna
Okay.
so I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna say this is a solution that you need. I'm gonna tell you the solution that you need, and then I'm gonna sell you my services to get to that solution. I don't necessarily have it. I'm just gonna tell you my services to help you get there. That's a consultative sale. All right.
Cool.
All right. What's your next question?
Well, I guess what makes for the expert, from a little bit of a mindset perspective, why is this one so easy to implement versus like some of the
Because
other strategies?
it's only 4 steps, right?
Oh, okay.
Because all the other ones, quite honestly, are 5,872 hours worth of content, and they're like, you gotta know all this, and they tell you gotta handle objections. We don't even worry about objections. So this one really follows 3, maybe 4 steps. The first step is get your client to fall in love.
Hmm.
That's pretty easy, right? That's the easiest thing in the world because you're curious and you're listening.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
right. People
Yep.
want to be heard. So you
Right.
shut the hell
Right.
up and you let them talk, right? So,
Yep.
right, you guide the question, you guide the conversation, but you are truly curious and interested in what they're talking about. And so your chances allowing them to speak and them falling in love with you go up exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the first step. Get your clients to fall in love. We do that on what we call the dark side of the bat signal. Right? Because it's easier to get people to fall in love with you in the dark. No, I'm just kidding. But we get
Well, the thing that really resonated for me is when you explain like dark signal means be quiet, shut up,
right. The dark side
listen.
means shut up, listen, close your
Yeah.
mouth. Right. Your mouth is dark. That's why it's called the dark side.
Yep.
Then the next thing that we do is we are not making an offer. See, a lot of times people go into this, and as soon as somebody says, oh, I'm interested in your stuff, they start spewing out their offer.
Mm-hmm.
You are now in an ABC position where you'll always be closing.
Yep.
Not where you want to be. You want to always be curious. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we are pre-qualifying the offer. In other words, you're going to tell me all this stuff, and I am not going to make an offer until I pre-qualify it. Right? So that's step 2. Then
Okay.
step 3, quite honestly, is the easiest step. Present the pre-qualified offer. So the second one is I'm going to craft the pre-qualified offer while I'm talking to you. In other words, I'm going to pay attention to which one is the right one. Make sure it fits your time, effort, money constraints. And then from there, I'm going to present the actual offer. And then step 4, just to do the logical next step.
And when you say, so what I'm not hearing you say is then you close them.
And that's what throws people off all the time because they're like, no, but then you have to do some trial closes. No, you do the logical next step.
And so logical next step, like what are some examples?
Like so if I'm selling a high ticket program, I'll use me. And I'm definitely one of those people. If I get on the phone with you, I'm probably ready to buy. However, with that said, if I'm buying a high ticket product or service that I've already done the homework on, and I know I'm cash rich and I'm cash rich and time poor,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to waste the time of my co-founder to be on the phone with both of us. I'm going to go out and do some pre-work. Now, I'm interested and I want to buy. The logical next step for me is to go and talk to my co-founder about it, Chanel, and
Yep.
then have a secondary call. That's the
Got it.
logical next step, right? So the logical next step is let's set up a secondary meeting, right? For some people, the logical next step is I don't have to talk to anybody. I want to close. For other people, the logical next step is they don't want to do anything right now. It's whatever is the logical next step. That's it. People get so stuck on this. You got to go in for the close and you got to box them in and you got to hold them down. I'm like, no, you do not. If you've done your job on the first 3 parts, then the logical next step just is the logical next step.
What I love about this, Donna, is that it sort of takes away like all of the angst and stress and anxiety, because you don't have to like have all of this figured out before you get into the call. You can just kind of open up and just see where it takes you. You've
Mm-hmm.
got some guidelines, but
Yeah,
then
you're definitely guidelines.
you're working with the person, it's not a game of psychological manipulation or
And let me
anything.
just be clear. You as the expert, as the person who has the solution,
Mm-hmm.
it is your job to dominate the next step. But
Mm.
it is still a logical next step. That's it. So if they say they want to have a talk with you next week, it is your job to make sure that gets on the phone, on a calendar, not the client's job, right?
Right.
That's you're still owning the next step, but you're just taking them to the logical next step. So if I were on the phone with someone and I said, "Yeah, I need to go and talk to my co-founder and have a conversation with him,"
Mm-hmm.
it would be the salesperson responsibility to say, well, when would be the best time for you to get on the call with us? Or what would be a best time for us to have a follow-up conversation?
Yep.
And put that on the calendar. They should still own the logical next step. What I hear is this was, okay, well, when do you think you'll call me back? No, now you're not doing your job.
Now they set themselves up to get
Of
ghosted.
course they're going to get ghosted.
Yeah.
And you're not, and sometimes you're not even getting ghosted on purpose.
Right.
Sometimes the
Right.
person just gets so busy that they
Yep.
forgot, and then you send them an email and they're going to answer it, but then they got busy, but if you would have put it on the calendar, and then what happens by the time somebody's ignored you 3 times, they're embarrassed.
Mm.
So now
Yeah.
they're not going to talk to you at all, and so now you lost the sale because you did not own the logical next step. You still
Yeah.
have to own it,
Yep.
right? But it's not a hard close, push, anything like that at all. It's
Right.
just, when are we going to talk about it again?
Yeah. And I've heard you say kind of too, like, where are we going to go next, kind of
Yeah.
thing and
Where do
stuff.
we go
So.
from, like, literally, once I get to the end, people are like, what's your close? I'm like, where do you want to go from here?
I love it. It's so profound.
It's so like, so deep.
Yeah.
That's one thing, depths. I've, majorly depths. Now it's like, where do you want to go from here? And usually like, oh, well, I have to do ABC. Okay, great. How long do you need for that? All right, cool. Let's pop it on the calendar. My favorite is when people say, well, I have to get my calendar. I'm like, well, cool. Get yours. I got my phone. Let's go. Like, where the hell are your calendars? You all they act like their calendars are on a piece of paper in the basement of a friggin' office or something. No. Get on just grab your calendar. Let's take a look. What are we doing? Right? Just you have to own the next step. Obviously, we have steps in there, but yeah, you have to own the next step. And
Yeah.
that's really it. People make this so complex and complicated. And the thing is, if you go and look at the big boys out there that are talking about sales and all this other stuff, they talk about it in a very complex and complicated manner. And what they're using is this very dudeish way of saying, confuse and overwhelm.
Mm.
If I confuse and overwhelm you, you'll be so desperate that you won't have a choice except for to come to me for the solution. It is a very negative way of selling and marketing.
Oh, okay. I see that all the time.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We are literally like, it is 4 steps. You
Yep.
will likely learn this in 3 hours. And
Yeah.
then all you're going to do is get better week after week after week. Like in our sales academy.
Yep.
Look how many people were ready to get on sales calls after week 2.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, of course you are. They're like, no, but for real. I'm like, yeah, I know. They're like, no, but what's your list? No, that's it. That's it. That's it. Like, we are not going to complicate this. You're just like, what about objections? Why would you have objections? Right? Like, there are no objections. This is it. And they're genuinely shocked because what's happened is their entire career, they have run from the fear of sales.
Right.
And for
Right.
the first time ever, they're going, really? I'm going to double how much money I make from these 4 steps? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I built a $250 million business on these 4 steps. So yeah.
Well, and when you say double too, I think like a lot of times people think, well, they think more, right?
Right.
When they think
They think
doubling
they're
something,
going to do
they have
more
to do
work.
twice as much time or twice as much work or whatever. And I think that's what is so incredible about this
Now,
strategy.
you had 10 sales calls. And instead of closing 2 or 3 or 4, you're going to close 6, 7, or 8. Same 10 calls. No different
Right.
calls, no new calls, no extra calls. Same 10 calls. You're just going to close 6, 7, or 8 of them. That's the only difference. You're going to stop leaving money on the table. And you're going to stop being afraid of sales. And the reason people are afraid of sales is because sales was built for people that are sales pros. If you go look at every sales thing out there, it's either built for sales pros or it's a regurgitation of the bullshit that's already out there for sales pros. And then they try to retrofit it for experts who are entrepreneurs. This is specifically built for people who are experts and entrepreneurs by a person who hated sales. That is an expert and entrepreneur that's closed over $250 million in sales in her career.
I still gotta get a kick out of that at one point you like hated sales and everything because
Hated it.
like you're international speaker and work with all of these, big companies and everything. And so it's pretty
Top
cool.
5
Like,
sales coach in the country for
yeah,
tech, blah, blah, blah. And they're like literally top 5 sales coach in the country for tech, for top woman sales coach in the country for tech. I hated sales. And now all I do is talk about okay, let's talk about how to close this multi-million-dollar sales deals in tech. And how do I help you close more deals as an entrepreneur? 100%. So listen, if you want to grab the blueprint, all you got to do is go and get this. You can do the URL. You can go to salessuperstar.net. I'm not really picky. But either one of them, I don't care how you did it. You can scan it, right? If you're sitting at home in front of your computer, you can go to the salessuperstar.net. Regardless, go in there, drop your email address. You're going to download, literally, it is a 4-step strategy. It is not complicated. You can actually go give it a shot. And if you're like, I want to give it a shot, but maybe you're like me, I have no problems giving things a shot. But quite honestly, I want somebody to hold my hand the first time. I'm like, because there are questions going to come up that I'm going to, in my mind, I'm going to overthink it and I'm going to mess it up. And I'm going to say, but I thought that meant, they're like, girl, where did it say that? I'm that person. So what I do is I'm like, no, I want to have a little guidance along the way to make sure I got this. And I'm like, okay, well, all you got to do is join this. So anyway, that's the URL. Go grab it. And seriously, double from doing the work you're doing right now. You can double your revenue and shatter the revenue ceiling in your business that is kicking your butt. Because I know it is. You got anything else, Dougie Doug?
no, I just love the idea of what you're doing now. You can do like the same time. You're just doing something different, but you're making twice as much money. To me, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
what's not to love about that?
Like watching the people in the academy right now,
Yeah.
they are crushing it. And we're 2 weeks in. This is our 3rd week, right? Our
Yeah.
third class will be Thursday. And they're crushing it. So if you didn't get in the academy, now you got to wait till next quarter. Because we got 20 people. We only let 20 people in. Like we got 18 one person fell out. So we had 18 people. We
Yep.
only let 20 people in. And so you got to wait till next quarter if you're trying to get in now. All right. Anyway, go to salessuperstar.net. Hey, and here's the cool thing. If you go there, you grab the download and you're like, I got some questions about this, you can get on my calendar. I give till it hurts. All right. All right. I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much, Dougie Doug.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. This was great. This really cleared some things up for me too, so I appreciate it.
Cool. Let's do this.